Join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are convening for the February 25th meeting of the Town of Canandaigua Planning Board. I think there are a lot of familiar faces here, so I'm not going to go through introductions, but I will acknowledge that I believe Tim Schneider has been appointed as a full-time member. Is that correct? Can someone confirm that?
I can confirm that. I was there when they did.
Okay, congratulations. Welcome
They're happy
aboard.
to have you.
And we also have with us this evening our code enforcement officer, Mike Murphy. Thank you for coming. Our town manager, John Fallow. I saw him come in. You signed behind the podium? Oh, okay.
Yes, you're.
And we also have a guest, Lance Sprayvan from MRB, who dutifully served the board for many years, and we appreciate that. And he's tutored one Eric Cooper, so Eric is picking up the reins. All right, we're gonna follow the agenda for the most part. It's published. I'm going to take chairman's prerogative and take a couple things out of order. Just so we can move some people along, so we don't get delayed too much. I think everyone is familiar with our protocol as to how we conduct our meetings. When you want to address the board, please come to the podium, give us your name and address, and you then have the floor to address the board. And pretty much takes care of that. The item that's mentioned, privilege of the floor. If anyone here or out there would like to address the board regarding an item that's not on the agenda, now would be the time to do so. Yeah. If not, we will also proceed. One other housekeeping issue, if you have to use the restroom facilities, these downstairs are currently out of order. So you'd have to take the elevator upstairs to the first floor. And when you get off the elevator, the restrooms are just to the left.
I did just prop the door open, I'll make it easier.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Steps. So you have an option, steps or elevator.
To exercise.
All right, as far as attesting to legal notices, we have one public hearing tonight for Uptown Landing, and that has been duly published in the Daily Messenger on the 18th of February. All right, first item of the agenda is a continuation of the site plan application for the Winans, 5860 Thomas Road. Nathan and Sarah, right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I think the issue that was remaining regarding your site plan application was forwarding the revised plan,
Yes.
which you did.
Yep.
And I think for the most part, the board should be comfortable with what they saw. Okay, the septic system was shown. The paving to the right of way is shown. I think water. Let's see, what are you going to?
We're going to do a meter pit in front of my current property.
Okay,
And then we got the easement the right of way to dig from there down the right of way and then go along the driveway.
okay,
I believe it shows.
And it shows on the plan.
It shows it right there on the.
Yep.
Right at the road. And it whips around to the back of the house.
okay, and we got the lot areas correct? They
Yep.
conform with the subdivision plan. And you got the lots labeled, lots 1 and 2.
And it's
You think-
District County now, says Ontario County.
Oh, you get the right county?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay, board, what do you think? Can we move on with this?
Maybe move on.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Someone want to make a motion? Let's see. Is there a seeker affiliated, I was
You
thinking,
already did it last.
with the subdivision? Okay.
I can, since I've got it up, I'll make a motion for the single stage site plan approval for 24. CPN 24-128, 131 at 5860 Thomas Road. We have 15 conditions here, but I did not take a peruse of these before, so if there's any updates or changes or whatever we need to do based on the updated site plan, then
These were based on the comments from last night's meeting, certainly if they've been addressed. Check the condition off afterwards if they have been. So you can probably cross off something right now if you want to do that.
Yeah, I think we want to set with the lot numbers and the reference to Wayne County.
Condition
Yep.
9's gone, 14's gone, 13's gone. 12, I think, we'll check.
Is there a SHPO letter required?
Think that on the short.
I'm trying to remember on the part one.
Yeah, I'm sure I put that in there because of short form of the trigger. it being in
Mhm.
sensitive areas.
Okay, you've got the park and rec fee. Related to the building permit, okay. All right, so how many conditions we left with?
Well,
Well, okay, I have a second to the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion second for discussion. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, folks,
Thank you.
thanks for coming
Thank you
back.
very much. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to jump ahead to a CPN 2024-153, if you want to get that up, 5790 Bristol Cross Road. Back to that.
We're okay from Tyler. We deal with all the changes. We just have to get him final copies.
And good evening.
Good evening,
You look
board
familiar.
members. Yeah, my name is Mihailo Elizeski. I currently live on Fort Knox, Kentucky. I'm an active duty service member. I am retiring in 2026. And after 24 years of active duty service, looking to build a single family residence for my wife, 3 kids at 5790 Bristol Cross. We originally bought the property in 2014 and seek this as our retirement location and just put our kids through the Canandaigua public school system like I did, graduated in 1998. Answer any questions you will have.
Okay. Got the plan up. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
A couple questions. First of all, great piece of property. I almost bought it. 2013, I swear. I know exactly where it is. I will say that septic system's been there since 2011 or 2010 at least.
Yeah.
Has it been checked and verified?
Twice over.
Okay, good. I almost bought it because of that. Next, your plans don't show the end of the road connection to Bristol Cross.
It's the same connections that's there, and then we do have a note that we're gonna have the apron paved up to the right of way. There is a general.
In the notes,
Yeah, there is. a
normally see that. Okay. In there.
And
And
related to that, excuse me,
No,
Bob,
go ahead.
you don't show where the well, you've got a line going.
We
down.
have, there's an overall existing
Yeah.
conditions map that shows
Site
the
plan
whole
one.
property, so. It was just due to the fact of how the scale of the property and it's,
How far
Yeah.
sits back.
but there is an existing conditions survey that shows the wells in the northeast corner. So the properties are serviced by existing well, existing electric and the septic.
Right, septic.
And then we just got confirmation from Tyler yesterday regarding the septic plans and everything, and he's good with the updates that he requested, so he's gonna be issuing a letter of.
That is, I believe, a condition.
And you're not gonna do any more clearing that I saw out there yesterday? That's all.
Just for the house site.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
just
all.
for the house site, that's right. And I met with a forester today, so per the planner's request on sustainable forestry in that area, I met with Bryce June. And so we have a plan to move forward with sustainable forestry in that.
Just to add to that, your question alluded to ECB's comments as well, which I wanted to make sure we noted that there would be no additional clearing. ECB recommends native species, and then the ag committee just for notes and said that it's not a loss of ag land, but just commenting on that, no questions from me.
I think somebody forested that land or planted those trees a few years ago. Do you remember that?
They did 60 years ago.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that looked like it was somebody planted those.
I believe it was Bob Barnum who planted them 60 years ago.
Okay, the county planning board, felt this was exempt from their review, so we have nothing from the county regarding this application. As you mentioned, Bob, ECB did review it. They were, want to make sure that you did use native species in any planting that you intend to use, put in the property. They also acknowledged that you are going to use splash blocks for the downspouts. Would possibly consider rain barrels or a different strain. And we talked about the new tree clearing beyond. Jim Fletcher had no comments on it. The Ag Committee, I just got that today. They were okay with it.
There's no ag, it's all forest land up there.
Yeah, well, I think that's what they said. It's not subject to any farming, so hasn't been in the past and won't be in the future. So I said Fletcher had no response. Code had, Kyle had said something, he said changes requested, but I couldn't find what the changes were.
He wanted us to put the slope on the driveway, a note regarding the linear travel length of the driveway. We're right just below the 500, so we just wanted to make sure that he wanted us to double check to make sure we didn't need to pull off or anything, but we have enough area with the driveway and the gravel that's there now to turn an emergency vehicle around and not have to put a turn off somewhere or pull off somewhere.
What is the length of the driveway?
It's about 490 feet.
You have your leach field right down at the bottom.
Yeah, plus it's a rather wide swath,
Mm,
but
Yeah.
we didn't want to have to like, you
and
know,
your slope's about 14.5%.
it's labeled on
Yeah.
there, I don't know.
Yeah.
That driveway's been there for many
Forever,
years.
yeah.
Well, and the good news is it's got a landing
Yeah,
area down at the road, so it's not like you're coming down the driveway out into the Bristol Cross. No response from Cheshire Fire. I know you have an application to the ZBA for the barn, I think, as far as the septic system or something.
Yeah, that's correct. I just paid for that today.
Okay,
And so happy to go through the entire process with it. And I can explain it further if the board requires.
is it related to anything we're doing here tonight? Not really, okay. That's
Wait,
right.
I saw a site, 213 plans have a barn on them, don't there?
Oh, yes,
It's not
see,
for the barn,
yeah.
it's for,
Something different. Okay.
something.
It's a pre-existing issue.
Oh,
Doesn't really impact.
I think it's, you want to put septic into the,
It's already there technically, so
yeah.
they found it. We just want to have like a slop sink in the barn. That's all it is.
for washing.
Yeah.
Your survey map does show the NRI features. You have hardwood, steep slopes, of course, on the property, but for the most part, you're staying away from those except for the, you know, the footprint of the building.
Yeah, we're not clearing any of the NRI. Mostly what we're clearing is gonna be just some pines, so.
On your plan, you have in your zoning block, the height of the building greater than 35 feet. I think you just had your arrow back.
Can do.
Well, the,
Yeah, I can-
you
I can-
acknowledge it and
yep.
it's there, so just
Can.
make sure you turn that around.
Yeah, dude.
We talked about the condition of the septic system. Excuse me. Thank you for sharing the elevations of your home. It looks like a very nice structure. Driveway, location. Pull off, we talked about fire access, driveway, road. CBA, septic tank. Board, anything else? Does anyone in the audience here or out there have any questions for the board on this application? This is 5790 Bristol Cross Road. If not, I think we can move forward.
Bundle.
Yeah, we got a type 2. We can bundle it with the site plan.
I'll make the motion to do a bundle plan on the secret resolution and type 2 action. At 5790 Bristol Cross Road at CPN 24-17 or 153. And a single stage site plan resolution. At the same site with the 7 listed conditions.
I added one to correct the building height.
Thank you. And the 8 conditions then.
I'll second that. DD number 5, if Jim didn't have any comments.
I think we've in the past, we've left them on
Left
in
them in?
case that he does come back with comments. Okay, I just haven't, he didn't respond.
All right. You got the park and rec fee. And the wastewater, yeah, okay, very good. The motion, I did get a second.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Further discussion, if not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, one last housekeeping item. Let's take care of CPN 2024-139 Middle Cheshire Road. The applicant has expressed a desire to have this thing tabled to an undetermined time until they get back to us. So I guess we're not really we're continuing it, but with no date on the back end.
No. Continue it to a date. If you'd be so kind. What is it? It's a subdivision or a site plan?
It's a
Site plan.
Continue it for a month. Continue it by month.
I have a feeling it's gonna be more than one.
We do
They seem to,
Do by 2 then once, but then do 1 at a time and follow up with the applicant. They will trigger staff to follow up with the applicant. Can't just let them hang out there forever. There's potential.
I agree. I agree.
It's gonna be basically, and then they'll have to go PRC again, I assume.
I don't know what.
60 is fine once, but don't just give them 2 months at a time, because then things fall off radars and
This is our.
Okay, well then-
Continuation. Sorry, Chuck. This is our second continuation, last meeting or the meeting. before.
I think this is the second continuation. We usually don't have any protocols for continuations, right?
Yeah.
But we certainly, I think, should track it through a
Mhm.
continuation. So I think we make it 60 days from the next April meeting.
second April meeting.
Second April meeting is,
Second April. That would be.
which if someone has a calendar, you can put that in
22nd.
there. So can I have a motion to
The
continue
22nd.
to the second meeting in April?
22nd.
Thank you.
22nd April. So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. For discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that took care of most of the smaller items. Remind me to do the extensions at the end. Okay, so now we're to the main event. We are going to discuss an application, CPN 2024 143 from Marathon Engineering, representing Jeff Cook, for a preliminary overall subdivision and site plan. And the applicant is proposing the 414 lot subdivision with mixed use development in accordance with a preliminary approved incentive zoning agreement with the town board. Okay, one thing, I know there's been some concern expressed about this application on some of the social media. And I assume some of those folks may be here or out there. So what I want to do is, first of all, open the public hearing. And second of all, give a brief background on the regulatory issues that occurred that got us to this evening. From my notes, certainly there's a zoning issue, which was the adoption of the incentive zoning by the town board as an overlay to the underlying zoning districts. And John, was there some action taken by the town board last night regarding amending that, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there was an amendment, just because of a technical error. That we covered last night that passed by the board. And it was, simply, extending the incentives that were in the form-based code to the other two zoning areas that fall within the same property. Again, it still fulfilled the intent of the incentive zone, report. It just was missed in the initial report, so.
Okay. So that's been taken care of also. So I think the zoning is in place. As far as seeker, I know the town board was sort of carried the ball in seeker with the incentive zoning. Is there any further seeker action that this board has to do related to the subdivision?
No, beyond confirming that the seeker conducted by the town board and the negative declaration applies, and the project is still essentially the same in all respects, which in my opinion it is, in your town planner's opinion it is, in your professional engineering and planning consultant's opinion it is. But it's not an in-depth review that you have to do because you have consultants and staff that did that review for you. But if you have any concerns, we should address them.
Okay, but as far as any formal action, not seeker, that's taken care of. Okay, we also have running concurrently a form-based code review, which follows the protocol of the form-based code. And so that sort of is an underlayment to the subdivision or concurrent with the subdivision. So we have to make sure that we comply with the form-based code requirements. And then there's the preliminary subdivision itself, which we're going to talk about this evening. And then should the applicant be successful in getting preliminary overall subdivision approval, a final subdivision by section would be issued based on the preliminary approval, which would occur sequentially beyond this evening. I think does everybody agree with what's transpired so far? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And if that's the case, then I will ask Matt to maybe give us an overview, and for the benefit of people who have not been following the project, a little bit of what the project's all about and what you intend to do.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate that. I know we've been seeing a lot of each other, but we're happy to be back. I'm joined by Ian DeNaro and Jeff Cook with ownership. Ian's online, Jeff's here. Steve Cullum's the project architect, also online. And then Jake Calabrese from my office with Marathon is also here joining me. Brief overview for a large project. Sometimes I can leave some things out, but I will give you a quick overview. So we're located on Parkside Drive and Fire Hall Road. We're bordered by Blue Heron Park in the southwest corner of the property. There's a school district property along Parkside Drive. We have multifamily bordering us to the south and east, and then larger single family or agricultural to the north and to the east. And this project is approximately 100 acres in size. As you mentioned, it is within the form-based code area of the town. And one of the discrepancies in the zoning maps that we fixed last night at the town board was as it related to the underlying zoning, with portions of it being part of a single family. But we've addressed that as part of the incentive zoning process. So we've been here not only for a sketch plan and preliminary approvals now, but also we're referred to this board as part of the town board incentive zoning. And the reason that we went to incentive zoning for this project, the underlying form-based code is very permissive as far as densities, building heights, all the kind of things that make a large project like this feasible. But it didn't really fully capture, contemplate single-family homes, townhomes, some of the other uses that we are proposing for our residential mix. So we are proposing a mix of single-family homes, about 230 lots, approximately 90 townhome lots, and 224 apartments. I'm sorry, I'm going off memory, so I'm a little slow on that. And then 105, those apartments are split up into 8 different 3-story buildings. Portion in phase 1 along Fire Hall Road, and then a portion closer to Parkside Drive. And then we have a 105 unit mixed use building that'll have a small commercial component included with it. Normal infrastructure improvements as part of this project. All roads are proposed to be dedicated, and those are designated by the road with a letter after it on the plan. The driveways, parking lots associated with the apartments and the mixed use would be privately owned and maintained. Those roads, Road A specifically is proposed to be a complete street, and I've got some handouts that I'll get to in a little bit as we get into the detail. That would be bike lanes, sidewalks on both sides, no driveways off of them other than the apartment and mixed use intersections. And then all other roads in there would be the typical town of Canandaigua subdivision cross section, sidewalk on one side of those roadways, and no bike lanes or anything else. That would be the standard subdivision street. Again, all to be dedicated. What's shown up on the plan here, and some of this will be market driven as far as which section goes in which order, but we know what section 1 is. Section 1 is approximately 60 single family homes on road B and road B, with the mixed use building and the associated apartments along Fire Hall Road. All of those would be constructed as part of phase 1 and road A up to just past the road B, road D intersection. For right now, what we're contemplating is a combination of green and blue here. Would be part of section 2, which would give secondary access for the roads, utility connections, everything else. Part of what's driving the decision for this is really where the sanitary sewer connections are and water along Fire Hall Road, because the infrastructure needs to be extended through the subdivision in order to allow us to do that successfully. So that's a very broad overview of the project and the scope of it. We do think that it's a great mix with different types of residential use that are going to give a wide array of potential tenants, home buyers at various price points throughout the development, and really bring a lot of housing that's needed in this area. So prior to tonight, we have, I think last week, uploaded quite a bit of additional updated information. I believe we've provided hard copies in slightly larger print than printing it out at 11 by 17 will get you with a lot of detail in it. And we purposely submitted preliminary plans to you guys kind of at the sketch plan level. Number one, to try to make sure that we looked at things in enough detail that we could answer your questions with some specificity as we went through this process. Number two, to get the outside agencies up to speed with what we were proposing. And number three, to stay on our developers' intended schedule, because we would like to start construction this year on this. And there's quite a bit of infrastructure that needs to go in there. So that has allowed us to receive comments from staff, from this board, obviously, throughout that process, from the town engineer, and our response to those comments were also part of what we submitted back And we're working with all of the outside agencies that this was referred to as part of the PRC to answer their questions and comments directly as well. So with that, I'd like to jump into just a little bit of detail, if that's okay, for some of the things, or,
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
And I brought copies as handouts. I believe that these were recently uploaded, but if you wanted to take one of each and pass them along. Just some graphics for the complete streets and what we're proposing. We do have some additional coordination needed with Mr. Fletcher as it relates to the complete street. But what's coming around here is a cross section and a graphic of a typical intersection that we're proposing. And I know the desire really is to create a complete street, which I think is this will be one of the first, at least from a private developer installed through this effort in this project. And so the first page here would be a cross section, and that's really building to building. And I'll orient, well, I don't have the plan up, but this is that site plan that we just had up there. Yep, but then that cross section that we had was great. So if I could just orient you a little bit, if we could go down probably one more, see the overall plan, sorry, up one. So this cross section on the complete street is essentially right through this intersection right here. And gives you an idea of the apartment building section on the left, page left of the plan. Street tree rhythm, foundation plantings at the location of the project, and light poles. We're proposing to match the street lights that are being installed along Route 332 currently to give that same flavor or feel as part of the development. Sidewalks on both sides of the street, bike lanes on both sides of the street, tree lawn, some benches and street trees. And I think as you look at those overall landscaping plans within the plan set, you'll see that that's represented, but we wanted to give a clear cross-section picture of that. And then the typical intersection portion, the spine road, of course, will have stop signs where it enters into the new intersections at Fire Hall across from Airline and on Parkside Drive. But it will be a through road, and again, it does not have driveways off of it, very limited intersections, only where the apartment driveways come out or other streets intersect with it. And so our intention is to offset those crosswalks slightly back from the intersections, have yield to pedestrian signage at those, but those will be mid-block crossings everywhere that occurs, and then providing representation of what those crosswalk stop signs, stop bars are going to be along that intersection, along with the feel for what that will look for the subdivision roads along with the spine road. And again, this is in much larger detail on those landscaping plans, but we want to provide some graphics. Some of the things that we have to coordinate with Mr. Fletcher, these will be dedicated roads. The crosswalks that we're proposing are a little bit different with multicolor to grab some visual. The bike lanes we're showing as painted. We're not sure that that's what he wants versus just the typical arrow or bike designated symbol. And that's from a long-term maintenance standpoint, because of course the town is going to own and maintain those roads. With that, I know there was a pretty substantial list of technical comments as well as code comments. A lot of the information that we have supplied back has been accompanied with some graphics, which we think will assist in some of the review. Some of those things include fire apparatus access road diagrams with worksheets for each of the larger buildings. Some portions of phasing plan, which was just up on the screen briefly there. Additional information as it relates to hydrant locations, and again, just addressing those technical items. So I'd be happy to go into any detail that the planning board had a question on or wasn't sure on how we had addressed that. But that's an ongoing effort, as it always is, to address those comments and satisfy the reviewers. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board. As I know we reviewed architecture at our last meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think there were a whole lot of comments or questions there.
Thanks, Matt.
We,
Oh.
can I just,
Sure.
I think. Respond to that, Matt, and it's based in part based on. Some conversation staff has been having. I agree, you did review architecture and there weren't many comments. I don't know that that's still true, and if it is with the board, I don't know that that's true with staff. Who I don't think staff has yet. Reviewed the architecture, so there may be some architectural comments still coming. That's not
Understood.
criticism. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the architecture. I'm saying. I think that's something staff has not yet reviewed, but they will be in the very near future, right there.
Yeah, and I think from the planning board perspective, I'm sure the technical review is gonna talk about transparency and compliance with the code and other things from a look and feel standpoint. I think if we've satisfied the planning board or you're comfortable with that direction, then we can of course address any technical comments that may be forthcoming.
So, and one of the things that staff has been talking about, and I don't know that the planning board, this is the first large scale form-based code application. Are you confident, or can you maybe talk about how the architecture, maybe not you, maybe an architect, but if you want to talk about that, that's fine too. Complies with the form-based code in terms of step backs, articulation, building height, variations in roof lines. I know that the architect went over the difference in the changes in the roof lines, but you know, in digging into the form-based code, it looks like there's things that I'm sure you guys have addressed, but maybe the planning board should hear it from your guys' mouth, either at this meeting or in a future meeting. How it complies with the form-based code.
Sure, I can speak to the single family and townhome, because I think that's a little bit simpler, and then I'll turn it over to Steve if he's able to speak a little bit there to the footprint. So the single family and the townhomes, that was really where the largest amount of relief was requested as part of the incentive zoning process for transparencies, portions of the building within the build to zone to allow for garages that didn't have windows in the doors, those kind of things. So from that standpoint, we had submitted supporting model elevations, if you will, as part of that incentive zoning process. And I believe that those are compliant. The intent obviously is that single family home, townhome style, consistent with what was submitted. As far as the apartment buildings, which are all the same footprint, that L-shaped footprint, and the mixed use, I'll let Steve weigh in on that as it relates to jog setbacks, build two lines, those kind of things. I will say from the build two line placement on the site, separations from fire lanes, all of those are fully in compliance. That's part of what we did as part of the site plan placement and those kind of things. But I'll let Steve talk to articulation and transparencies.
Sure, and for the apartment buildings and the mixed use building, we really tried to use the incentive zoning, or sorry, the form-based code as our guide for having regular intervals of building face that stepped in and out, particularly on the street facades. If the south elevation there that you're looking at is one good example of that, where you can see we have about 30 feet of building that's popped out, and then about 30 feet that's popped in, and then followed by another 30 feet that's popped out from left to right. And that creates the articulation that the form-based code really desires from a building materials and transparency standpoint. We modified those as part of our incentive zoning to be more in keeping with what an apartment building and a mixed use building would typically be. Our mixed use building has a lot more transparency on the ground floor, which is what the form-based code was really after. Any other questions about that?
Anything, now's maybe a good point, good time to bring it up. I was surprised I couldn't find anything regarding the townhomes elevations. They're not there. I mean, you haven't done elevations what the townhomes are. gonna
They
look
should, if you saw the single family homes, it was part of that same package in the elevations, so.
like? Well, now
unless we-
that's my second question, single
Okay.
family.
That was my other word.
Okay, I know that we submitted those as part of the initial submission. Where they are in cloud permit, I would need some help,
We're in the cloud.
but we can absolutely, it wouldn't be part of the plan set, it would have been a separate document. And if it's not findable in the planning board application one, it definitely was part of the incentive zoning application that's on
Yeah.
it. But we can absolutely upload that. I apologize if it's not included.
And as far as the single family, they're Ryan homes, right?
That's correct.
So they had options as far as.
About five
Floor
different footprints, yep, floor plans, some of them with a third car bay in the garage, some of them without, all about 38 to 44 feet in width in total. And again, we have 60-foot wide single family lots. We did request relief up to a 5-foot minimum side setback, but anticipate that we'll be well within those as part of the development.
If you can provide those, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Do you know what the height of your single family is gonna be, max height?
There are 2-story models, but they'll all be under 35 feet. I think around 28 or 30 feet was the height.
Need to know that.
And all the ones on the plan that are shown is the maximum. There's a
The
couple different
largest
sizes,
footprint,
yeah,
right?
largest footprint.
Yeah.
So Matt, are you okay now? Can we get into, the board? And I, if it's the board's liking, I would sort of like to go out to the public at this point. It's a little bit out of order what we usually do, but I think the good idea to make sure the public understands what the project's about and to address the board with any questions or comments they may have regarding the project. And then after our discussions as a board on the application, go back to the public and see if there's any further questions. Because I want to make sure everybody is clear as to what the project is all about. I know, again, as I said, there were some concerns expressed on social media. And we also had a couple concerns expressed at one of our previous meetings, and we certainly documented those. I'm sure you have too, from Mr. Heckler and all that. So I will now open the floor to anybody from the public, either here or on Zoom. I'd like to address the board regarding any comments. Anyone here in the audience, in person? Well, surprise. Wow. Okay, if everybody seems clear as to what the project's all about, let's see if we can become clear on it. Okay, I'll open it up to the board regarding questions, comments.
Has there been any renderings or any more detail about what it might look like from Fire Hall Drive? There's been some renderings, but it looks like, part of the Complete Streets package. I'm just curious what it's gonna look like from Fire Hall Road in view.
In total elevation, or excuse me, rendering of the streetscape along there has not been prepared. We have the elevations of each of the building that will be along there, but not necessarily
Yeah, I saw
all of
that.
them combined.
I mean, will it
in there.
be in keeping with the way it's landscaped on Complete Street side?
As far as foundation plantings, street tree plantings, yes. If we scroll down in the plan set to the landscaping plans, maybe we can speak to that a little bit more. Gotta probably go another 6 or 7 pages here.
It's past these.
So a rendering would look fairly similar to.
Yes, that's
along
correct.
Fire
That's correct. I don't know if it's possible to zoom into the streetscape or frontage along that larger building there. So we have some power poles and RG&E easement through that area, so we are trying to go with some more decorative trees along the frontage. In order to comply, but there's full foundation plantings along the perimeter of that, as well as street tree rhythm along the front. A lot of the street trees through the rest of the development are larger material, but again, that's just to make sure that we're staying clear of RG&E's infrastructure through that area. But all of these buildings here, we only show one right now for the typical, but the final section 1 plantings will have the further detail, but all of this one and this one are both shown for representative purposes as far as the level of plantings that we're proposing.
Thank you.
Let me address a couple things. I noticed you, thank you, placing that pathway, I think in between house 8 and 9, I think it is. Is that gonna be an easement? And does that easement need to be on there?
We haven't decided yet, and we're looking at as part of the final section 1 as far as whether or not we create a strip of land because it's contiguous to the the mixed use building, which is also going to have the majority of the stormwater management facilities from a maintenance standpoint. If not, there will be an easement to that lot and they would be responsible for maintenance.
The first one would be my preference.
Strip of open land.
Yeah, attached to the.
That would be our preference as well. We
Yeah.
got to make sure that the lots can adjust properly to allow.
Yeah,
for
if
that.
you can meet your setbacks with
Yep.
that.
Yeah, because I mean, we wouldn't go this far and then just say, well, we can't do it. I mean, I'd like to have that. And it's kind of shown but not shown as well, like on your sidewalks on some of the main streets. Kind of like it's there, but not there. I just won't go and be forgotten.
Yep.
What do you mean on the main?
Yeah,
sidewalk,
so if
the
you
main
look at like any of the road A crosswalks are really highlighted. And it's hard because 8 and 9 just breaks on a match line. And it's kind of difficult to see it except for it's on a big plan.
Yeah.
Uh,
And our subdivision plats will also have all the easements shown on them and or lot configuration.
Right.
So we'll make sure that that's.
Yeah, we talked about easements last time, making sure that they're all there.
Yep.
In answering some of the publics that I read and heard from people, the buffer zone to the north, people are worried about that. How can you mitigate? You can't totally mitigate, but will some of your plans show there's trees up there now?
Mhm.
And then there's one of your plans show there's no trees, and then there's kind of trees. So are you gonna leave your buffer up there to the north?
Yeah, good question.
Um,
Yeah, if you could scroll up on the page that you just had up. So along the majority of our northern, if you could go up one more, I think that probably shows the existing conditions. Yep, scroll up on that a little bit. So the northern property line, there's a pretty defined brush line. Oh, it's not on this point, sorry. There's a pretty defined brush line that's about 60 feet into the property.
Right.
That's kind of the tree line, if you will. We're proposing to clear about 40 feet of that and leave 20 feet on our side of the line. There's quite a bit of additional vegetation, obviously, of our property. One of the, I don't want to call it benefits, but we're not backing up to a densely developed area, right? And in the town code, buffering is required with difference of uses for the most part, which we are increasing density on this parcel, of course. Just north of the property, also, there's an additional pipeline that doesn't have any vegetation on it. So there's kind of a wide range of conditions through here. We do anticipate, and we got single family homes, obviously, along the majority of that portion.
Right.
That single family homeowners will put up fences. If they want to screen it, they will screen from agriculture or other uses. But we don't really think that there's much of an impact from the development portion because of what we're proposing to leave and also what we're backing up to that. Part of our design really was intentional to put single family homes backing to those larger lot agricultural and residential uses versus putting multifamily, multi-story in close proximity to those neighbors.
So I think their problem, their thought process is they don't want people on their property. That's gonna be hard for them to manage, and just want to make sure that they said that their buffer zone is still gonna be there. They don't wanna be looking at all these houses when they're enjoying their property.
Mhm.
And hopefully they understand the gun range is gonna be there. It's not going away.
Yep.
And Chairman talked about already the height of the single families and what it looks like. I'd like to know that. And one more plug for road names underneath the historian
Yes.
for that.
We have a list
Okay.
and it's my understanding that the county recently changed their road nomenclature 911 process. I think it comes through the town now, which may be good, may be bad, I don't know. But we do have a list that was provided to us by the historian. Our desire is for the spine road to be Uptown Landing Boulevard, and then we've got that list to apply across. So our final section 1 plans will have road names on the plans for approvals.
Thank you. That was my meeting.
Other board members?
Can we go to, it might be easier to see on the phased color coded. There's something that I hadn't seen previously, but it doesn't mean it wasn't there. In phase 1, there is at the very end of, I'm gonna misname or misnumber the road. At the very end where the single family lots are, there's like a little butt out for like proposed future road expansion, something or another, like little lot.
Right here.
That little guy, yep. What is the intent for the management of that area? And like, will that be wrapped up into any like HOA sort of things, who's gonna maintain it, et cetera, until like in its state as it is in the plan until anything future happens with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that's one of the coordination items with Mr. Fletcher as far as whether we make that a straight through road and a stub gets constructed later, so it looks like the road just continues and there isn't a future road, or if he wants that road built. That actually was an ad or original discussions with Mr. Fletcher. We didn't need connection to that because it's a very low density zoning, et cetera. I think that was added as part of discussion with this board with staff. It will be part of the dedicated right of way. So the town is going to own that at the time that section 1 roads get dedicated. So.
And it'll be a hammerhead, I'm assuming, for turnaround.
And there would be a hammerhead for turnaround, whether that's temporary or
left side of the
permanent.
hammerhead.
That's correct. Yes, for emergency vehicles. Yep. So whatever the typical maintenance effort from the town is for dedicated roads that aren't built yet, I guess I'd have to defer to Jim on that.
Got it. That answers my question.
I just hope that road doesn't become an ATV trail to the north.
Like
That's
it's
what I
it's
would
a-
fear
Just a
if I lived up
footpath
there.
or-
So put some boulders.
Yeah, boulders up there or something.
Add some boulders to the site.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Right?
Yeah.
Deter traffic.
Well, it's their building.
Anything else, Amanda?
The town never wants it to be road. It's being full.
That was.
Mark?
The only thing that I would ask is, I know the concept around the subdivision code is to reduce the size of them, but when I think through the sizes and scope of the project, and getting complete streets into that area for the bike paths and everything as well, just because of the increased density that we're adding. Is there any reason that we can't look at continuing the width to allow for bike paths to get through that part of the development?
I think that's partially the intention is that would be shared road typical to the standard subdivisions. There's quite a large expense to a larger roadway. So another 6 feet of asphalt along, I think we have almost 5 miles worth of roads within this development would be very substantial to the developer. So there's a large investment going in on this spine road without any lots on it. And that's really where we wanted to focus the resources available to provide that complete street through the development.
What's the surface of the trails?
The trails
Mhm.
are going to be asphalt paved, which will match the asphalt paving as one of the amenities that we are providing within Blue Heron Park. Yeah.
And how wide are the trails?
6 feet wide.
Bikers, I guess could use the trail.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will, I mean.
No, I'm just thinking of the continuity of where the current trails need to be. So trying to think practically what happens. Do they turn the road, do they divert the sidewalk? What other conflict is the bomb?
Where do you mean?
Well, when you transition from a spline road to a subdivision.
Yeah.
You got that transition, the density is just so large because it goes back into a single family. And then once it's phased out, you move into the multi-family units as well. So I'm just expecting that we'll get higher. Units.
Yeah, I would say all of the multifamily lead directly off of that spine road. So the complete street, the bike lane service, the largest density items, I think very well. The subdivision streets also are really intentionally laid out to have relatively short runs and not lead somewhere else, right? You're only driving on those if you live on that street for the most part. There is not a cut through opportunity through one of the subdivision streets to avoid the spline road.
Understood, but I think what we're also hoping happens with this is that you get pedestrian traffic with maybe bike and the other.
Yeah.
The pedestrians are having the sidewalk, so thank you for that. That's a nice avenue for that. It's just when I think through any place where we've seen higher density home between the Amazon deliveries plus the conflicting bicycle plus the traffic that comes through. I like the fact that the subdivision gets narrower because that should slow down traffic and increase the safety of it. But at the same time, we have a number of conflicting modes of the realities of transportation that it starts to run into an issue. And it's really once it's phased out. So in phase 1 and 2, I don't think it becomes a problem. It becomes larger. Now you're just increasing the volume of people. Just a thought. Whether or not we're creating a larger problem over time. And the other channels may compensate for that, and you may just choose to go to that. Then we also automate some developments.
Yeah, that would, it'll realize itself as we build out, as you said. Tim, you have any questions, concerns, comments?
No, I just really was interested in what it's gonna look like when you first see it, what your gateway looks like.
Okay, if everyone could bear with me, I spent the weekend wrestling with those full set of plans. My shoulders are stiff from doing that, but I did go through them. I went through them rather thoroughly. And I did have a couple questions and comments regarding the plans themselves, as well as, the form-based code application. And I guess the first thing, speaking of FBC, the checklist, you said that it was submitted with a previous submissions. I assume that was the incentive zoning that you did it. The form-based code checklist, application checklist.
Yeah.
It's not in our package now, and
Okay. It should be in cloud permit. You're telling me it's not though.
not in this application. Okay,
Okay.
not in the preliminary overall subdivision. It could be in a previous regarding the IZ. If you can get that checklist to us, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Sure.
We talked about the building articulation, and that's something that's required in the FBC. And I know staff as well as the board was concerned to make sure there was some sort of relief in the building facade. And I think that one perspective you showed at the last meeting certainly, brought that to light. Do you propose any awnings or balconies as part of the project? And if so, are they in compliance with the FBC?
Steve, do we have balconies on the apartment and mixed use for the apartments?
Yes, there are balconies. They're generally recessed into the building as part of the plan. you can see on the elevations that are shown for the north and west, there's on the north elevation, there's two sets of balconies near the center of that. And on the west, it's on the far left.
Yeah, I know the code specific as to what's allowed and what's not
Yeah,
allowed. So
they, in compliance with the balcony rules on page 42 of the form-based code, I guess is what Chuck is probably asking.
I'll have to take a look at that and
And then,
confirm.
as I'm looking, it says all applicants must provide for balconies, an indemnity agreement in a form acceptable to the town, holding harmless and indemnifying the town, its officers and employees from and against any and all claims and liability resulting from encroachment into the public right of way. Applicants must also provide proof of insurance acceptable to the town and naming the town as an additional insured on a primary non-contributory basis. I'm assuming that's if your balconies overhang a sidewalk, a public walkway,
Which we will not.
public road. And if they're potentially gonna fall off the building and hit pedestrians, so.
Sounds like you might have written that.
No, come on, no, I don't have anything to do with it, form-based code.
all right, well, we'll check it to make sure it's.
Yeah, we will confirm compliance, but we definitely do not have any balconies encroaching into the right of way.
No, definitely not.
As far as any utility equipment mounted to buildings, gas meters, electric meters, compressors, that kind of stuff, I think as part of the form-based code, they're to be screened.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's your intent to do so? if
Yeah,
it
it's
applies?
the foundation plantings that we showed are intending to provide screening for anything. I believe that they're working through selection of mechanical equipment, that kind of thing, in order so that we can provide that information to you folks.
So, and this board hasn't addressed, it's, if you don't mind, it's a good time to address this. This is, and Lance, chime in if you can, if you think I'm missing something. We need to be very detailed and cover everything now. This is a preliminary overall phased approval. And so we're getting, it's well beyond concept, but a lot of those details, Chuck, and it just dawned on me, are covered in the final phase one,
Realize a lot of
or
these would
final
be
phase
fine.
two. It's good that we're bringing them up now, so you're not,
And we are
Surprised.
thinking about them, so we want to answer questions at the board.
you know,
meeting. So-
where the enclosure is gonna be should probably be on the preliminary. What the enclosure is gonna be should probably be on the final.
To include dumpsters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
that's
that makes
another-
sense.
Yep.
It could be either, but in my mind, you know, is it, you know, form-based code has a drawing of what they want enclosures to be. I think that's probably a final issue. General location of the enclosure would be.
Another good example is signs. If you have a monument sign, which I think you're proposing.
So we've shown monument sign locations at the two entry intersections. Have not progressed design of
As far
those.
as what they say.
Yes,
is
but those will be part of
another day.
final. We have added dumpster enclosures to all the apartment and mixed use
Mhm.
parking lot areas, so we are. And my understanding is at least the initial selection of equipment would not require ground mounted condensers or anything like that. As far as along the building foundations, if you guys could speed up the gas and electric folks to help us where the meters are gonna go, we'd love to bring you on board.
Not our problem. How you make it out with your lot line adjustment? I know you're taking the 4 existing lots. And you're going to join common deed and then eventually subdivide it as a result of this application. Have you taken care of the lot line adjustment?
The lot line adjustment or the remaining lands will all be combined as part of that section 1 plat filing, so it's not a separate effort from our standpoint.
That's,
Okay, so it's not, you do the lot line and then.
you don't have, yeah, and
You
a
want the-
subdivision approved by the planning board and signed by the planning board chair. When it gets filed,
Dissolves the old lines.
eradicates any old one.
Yep, and the info for the 4 existing parcels will be on that subdivision plat.
You, I mean,
that's
the
submitted.
clerk, the county clerk will require deeds from the original owners into the new owners. But that's not our business.
We mentioned street names. When does that process occur? Do the street names have to show on the preliminary overall, or is that something that we hold up to the final section?
Good question. Lance, Eric?
I believe typically in the past, like older projects that I've seen, we haven't gotten them until final.
Okay.
That was probably more so due to the procedures at that time. Maybe things have changed. But I would think that the final phase plans would be appropriate time to identify.
So for the purpose of the preliminary approval, it would be road B, road A.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe with final phase one, Matt, you know, you're gonna have
For
an
sure,
overall
yeah.
plan still shown in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that plan will reflect the road names
Yeah.
that they anticipate in the future.
In the town's code for subdivision, the names of the proposed streets are on the final plat checklist. Not the preliminary.
Mhm. Which could be like an overall final, but in this case, it's by section.
Yeah, so we absolutely will have an overall plan, the phasing plan is part of it, and then section one final specific plan set that comes before this board, and we can have the road names on there, no problem.
Okay, I see you stated and you're willing to pay the park and rec fee for each dwelling unit. So that includes apartments, townhomes, all those. Okay. NRI features, as I think we'd mentioned previously, they're few and far between here. The only thing really that showed on any of the maps was map 4, and do wildlife, but maybe it's 2-legged wildlife, not 4-legged.
Well, that was also part of the coordinated seeker effort, was providing documentation on archaeological studies, traffic studies, endangered species, so I believe all that's been taken care of.
I want to acknowledge the traffic study done by McFarland Johnson. Has the State Department of Transportation or the county had any comments on your?
They were part of the interested involved agencies that
Okay.
was referred for the IZ, and we haven't heard anything.
I think your conclusions on the traffic study, most of the levels of service either stayed the same or maybe ticked a little bit, you know, to the negative on a couple of them, but I guess the big intersection was County Route 28 and 332, which they felt could be fixed with a timing adjustment.
Yes. We will have a DOT permit process as part of the project for the sidewalk connection out at Parkside
right.
and Route 332, so they will have another opportunity to take a look at the project.
What's the, has the project been referred to the Park and Rec Committee?
Yes.
Have they spent time? Do they have any comments, any responses?
They're gonna have comments and responses about, so as part of the incentive zoning approval issued by the town board in the fall and then amended last night. There is an incentive zoning agreement executed by our town and the applicant that governs how they're gonna get the Park and Rec Committee's sign off on, you know, where the amenities, park amenities are gonna go and what they're gonna be made of.
Equipment and all that.
Yeah, equipment, bathhouse,
So it's nothing we have to address at the subdivision or site plan.
no.
Yeah, and we have been having some email correspondence with Mark McNeil, who I think is the chair of the
Yeah.
committee, and offered to meet with him if that would be helpful to them.
I mean, I guess the trail connection from the park to the site plan, those are Park and Rec related. Maybe Sarah,
Well,
just ask Lindsay.
You've got the pocket
Assuming
parks.
they're okay.
You got the pocket parks
Yeah,
too,
that's true. If they have any comments.
if you have any comments on those. Public transit, I think that's been discussed very frequently, there is access to, RTS, I believe out on 332 and possibly down on County Route 28.
I think Parkside across from.
Yeah,
our-
near the,
Brom, Near Brom.
The VA apartments. Okay. And school bus routes, they'll be determined at some point, with the school district.
Those are really dependent on what riders need it and what year. So most of the time that those routes get planned or decided after construction.
Well, I guess that does, is there a spot at the end of each road for bus riders to wait? I'm assuming there's space, but you've got benches and stuff drawn here. Not having, I mean, is there
Yeah,
a
there-
bench at every intersection, most intersections? Is there space for, 6, 8-year-olds and their parents to wait for the bus? Because generally buses don't want to come in here, although these are loose, so maybe that's not the case. But-
Yeah, I would anticipate for section 1, they'll follow exactly what Mr. Nadler just outlined, where they'll come in, stop at each intersection and then loop back out. So there should be plenty of room for they're typical
They don't-
subdivision streets and.
They don't drop you off at each house. Remember when we went to school? Yeah. I had to walk a half a mile to the bus. Postal Service, I think you're in the process of figuring that out. I think with the apartments, you're gonna have a gang
Mail room.
mailroom.
Yep.
Houses were at the street. Houses were at the streets.
Houses will be.
Mailboxes will be
mailboxes
groups, yeah.
will Be handled.
Correct.
Trash and recycling, we talked about. Is it the intent of with the single family to have a single hauler for trash pickup or
There's no
subscription?
HOA, no, so that would be at the homeowner's
so
discretion.
they would contact with whoever? So you could have on any given day, trash trucks driving up and down the street. Okay. That's the problem with subscription collection. One guy's Monday, other guy's Tuesday. If you had a single hauler, it would be beneficial, but that's.
There'll be a single hauler for all the dumpster service and
Sure.
and the mixed
Yeah.
use and apartments, but we're not dictating that for single family town.
Okay, MRB did a thorough review and you did a thorough response. Eric, Lance, you have any comments on what the response back from Marathon was at all? Eric?
We're still working through a review of their responses and changes. We had email with Matt about some stuff that we feel we need, so we'll come to a resolution on that soon, the official response.
Sure.
I don't have anything to show beyond that. I think at this point in time, we're going through the responses that were provided. We're trying to decipher what is a preliminary related comment versus what is something that can be addressed as part of final phase 1. And I anticipate we would have a letter shortly out to everybody kind of summarizing those findings.
Okay. Sarah, you did a review back on the 20th. Any response on that yet, or?
Yeah, their response to MRB actually includes response to my comments, fire and code enforcement. And I gave you back a 1-pager, some follow-up questions.
Okay. I don't know that I've seen those yet, but we'll take a look. Yeah.
Okay, and the code department did a review of the plans back on the 24th of January. Any response to those at all?
Yeah, that was included in the letter. We also had some supplementary diagrams and fire worksheet attachments that we provided as well.
I did see the fireworks sheet. How are you making out with Farmington Water as far as the review of the water system?
We received the first round of comments and replied, or?
Yes.
Yeah,
And then
first,
Is that in that letter too?
it was not, that was separate, I believe, yeah.
If I may, I did talk to the superintendent today. I do know that they were going to respond to the town saying they received them. I don't believe they have yet reviewed the responses. for the revisions and they would intend to do that sooner rather than later.
I think we got a comment or a message today
Oh,
from, I don't know if that was the town of Farmington from primarily the water.
I think the code
In
enforcement
general.
officers.
Okay, perfect, yep. So just in general, town of Farmington, size.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is there comment response letter posted? Is it?
It's under.
Yeah, it says I see that it's down below. But I'm trying to do it the way Sarah does it, but.
Yeah, there were several comments about bends, hydrant locations, valve nomenclature.
Signs.
Yeah, I think we've been able to address them, and if we missed anything, of course, we'll take care of it.
Are you
Oh.
clear as to what buildings have to be sprinkled?
Thank you.
Under the current code right now, yes.
I'm related to the water.
So we have, I think, very conservatively modeled the water system. We're in a location with great pressure, great flows,
Mhm.
multiple points of connection. We'll be looping or taking care of the dead end that's on Parkside Drive currently and connecting that. So I don't anticipate any issues from being able to provide water service for the project.
Do the single families require sprinkle?
Not right now.
Not right now? That's why you're rushing, right?
Well,
Keep it moving.
it is what it is. We're not building those
Okay.
houses, so we'll figure it out.
And I'll be all powered by solar.
Yeah, we talked about the landscaping along the northern property line, which was a concern of the county and the Ag Enhancement Committee. Talked about single family options. The Ag Committee, in their review, they brought up the need for PDRs at some point in the future. They were a little concerned about the additional traffic affecting farming operations when tractors go out on the road, and so that's what their concerns were. And I guess there's also the issue of potential dust from plowing the fields and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've added the right to farm law note to the plans,
To the
and that'll
plan.
be apparent, yep.
The ECB, they had requests or want to point out the possibility of the need for dog parks. Excuse me. And I think you had stated in the apartments, you're probably gonna provide
Yeah, we're still looking at that.
settling
as an
areas for
amenity.
dogs.
Yep, yeah, for the apartment and mixed use dwellers, not necessarily a public dog park, if you will, for the subdivision, but we've got obviously passive open areas throughout and but not a dedicated dog park within the community.
They also suggest the use of alternative energy, solar, where applicable. Wildlife corridors we mentioned, certainly making sure you use native tree species in your landscaping. You said you're working with Jim on a couple issues, Jim Fletcher. When do you think you'll be able?
I know Jake's
Wrap those
reached
up.
out to him. He's been pretty busy with snow lately, so I'm sure that's why we haven't been able to get a hold of him. But generally, we comply with the design criteria for roadway sections, sidewalk widths. I don't think there's any major items out there, but crosswalk painting, bike lane striping, how he wants that for the roads that he's gonna own and operate or maintain in the future. Those, I think, are final details that we can work through with him. We just haven't connected with him yet on.
Okay.
I agree with that. Those are probably final details. So. they're low-
Yeah, hopefully, you know, nothing to apply to the overall would require going back and changing the overall, but with preliminary, but
Intersection locations, I've had a discussion with
Set.
him.
roadway widths.
Roadway widths, radiuses, again, all in compliance with that site design criteria. So I don't think there's
No need to
anything.
come back and change. Your parking lot space justification, I know the code sort of gives the planning board prerogative as far as number of parking spaces. How did you determine your parking space for the apartments and the multi-use?
I believe we've uploaded some ITE trip gen with the engineering review. Okay, that was a comment. So, we are. Apologize, I'm flipping the.
Yeah, we looked at, related to that, you mentioned about some land banked parking spaces,
We have a few at the,
11 of them.
I believe that we had a few at the mixed use, but I know that that's been in flux with the parking area. We have a total of. I'm sorry that I don't have it right at my fingertips, 367 spaces between all of the apartments and mixed use.
Okay.
And
For how many units?
we're at 224 plus 105 is 329. And that's, those spaces, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, that's just surface or that includes the garage locations?
Believe that.
Okay. Yeah, so we're just over
One to
one,
one?
just over one,
One,
yeah. One per apartment.
That's better than what we've had in the past.
And we do have a substantial, and Steve, I don't know if you have the numbers at your fingertips, the number of one bedroom or one bedroom and den apartment ratio here.
If you give me a couple moments, I can figure that out.
All right, and speaking to Jim, go over with him with the street name signs, regulatory warning signs that'll be posted in the development.
Yeah, we've incorporated stop signs, but have not had that further conversation.
I know it might be getting ahead of ourselves, but it's something that's gonna be an issue at some point.
If I may just. Sure, I'm sorry. This is new to me from this side, so I apologize. Matt, as you talk with Jim, I will take a look at the phasing plan, just to make sure, like, is Jim gonna require turnarounds at certain locations? If so, then you may need easements at those points. Make sure you have room for that. I don't know, I kind of did a cursory review of the phasing plan that was provided to decide whether or not a hammerhead would be necessary. You might have intersections that appropriately meet the spacing. But I think that would be an appropriate conversation to have with them to see if any additional hammerheads in the future might be needed based on the phasing plan that you currently have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I think the plans we saw this evening, I had a concern about landscaping along the back of, on the fire hall frontage for it's the multi-use building that's south of the roadway A. I think you're showing plants there now.
We are, yes.
Okay, that was,
Yep.
yeah, not on the plans.
Yeah, we are showing at the mixed use in one of the apartments to represent what we're proposing. The final section one, I have all the plant selections and information right on that.
Yeah, because the health station's across the street.
Yeah, so both foundation plantings, we're also adding some plantings along the foundation towards the park, as well as some of those decorative trees at the street.
Are you in compliance with any landscaping required in the parking lots?
Yes, as far as the number of islands, trees per parking space, that kind of
trees.
thing, yep.
Deciduous.
Yep.
There's concern, I think, from a couple sources about the effect of the project on the Blue Heron Park Pond. It's kind of a storm, it's certainly a storm drainage issue. Is there an issue?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
Of course, we're in compliance with.
Do you have outfalls draining into the pond?
Jake, you wanna talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so not, I think actually we're reducing the water that's going into that pond now, just because it's coming. From our site, and traditionally it came kind of slope from the right corner down to Blue Heron. Well, now that's all going into our infrastructure through our stormwater facilities, and then actually. Some of that is now routing directly into the 60-inch storm system that runs on Firewall. So, and again, like Matt was gonna say, we're in compliance, so everything that we're doing on site, we're reducing. We're at works matching, but we're reducing all of our outflow structures. And I think on top of that, just with how laying this out, I think a lot of, the existing drainage is gonna be, taken to that fire hauling system and then out.
Most of the drainage from the site drains or bypasses the pond itself on, within the park. Most of the drainage really just flows this way towards, as Jake was saying, there's a 60-inch storm line that daylights in a large swell going further to the north. Drainage through this area that comes through, there is a drainage easement that we're picking up and routing through our candle site, from this site here. That really discharges and kind of bypasses the pond into the swale that goes through the park. And we'll be picking that drainage up into our pond system and discharging that in the site as well. So I don't anticipate there will not be any additional discharge from our site to the pond. If there's a concern about us cutting drainage off to it or it not getting enough water, I don't know that we've looked at that, but I don't anticipate any significant change to the drainage patterns out there.
Yeah, I think the concern was the integrity of the pond that, you know, doesn't become compromised in any way. And I guess, you know, some people are concerned what effect it's gonna have on the lake. This drainage watershed is all upper outlet.
We go to tributary to Paddleford, so it's headed north and east, yep.
It's above and beyond the lake. Fire access worksheets, thank you for providing that. We got the comments from the city fire department, I assume.
Yes.
You're working with.
The majority of the fire department comments were related to the building, which more detail will come with building permits there, but I have passed those along to Steve to take a look at.
Okay. The SWIP is done and in review, I guess.
Yeah, we're waiting on some revisions for that. Again, that's over, work with Matt on.
Yeah.
So but we haven't completed our review yet.
Some of your notes on the plan, do you have a separate bond with Farmington Water? Like a surety bond, or is that?
So.
I anticipate that being the letter of credit that we established with the town of Canandaigua, but I don't know what the.
You have a note on the
intermunicipal
plan that
agreement
said about having a surety bond and maintenance bond with the authority.
Farmington asked us to put the Canandaigua Farmington standard notes on their plan. I'm not sure if that has a little bit of a discrepancy depending on which town it comes in, but we will be posting a letter of credit with
It's
Canandaigua.
typical, both Canandaigua and Farmington, they would post a surety covering the cost of the construction of the elements being dedicated to the town and or the district. It would also include stormwater, landscaping, those type of things typically. And then there would be a maintenance bond upon dedication of the infrastructure.
And I know that's something on my end, doing those notes, that I just need to touch base with the town of Farmington and pin down those exact notes that the Canandaigua.
To make sure they apply to
Yeah,
our
Cause
situation.
there isn't like one online per se, so I'll send a word doc.
They did update their site design criteria.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right. We got that, so I just gotta update and make sure that those were.
Do we have our infamous phosphorus? New one?
The mark there.
We don't have Brian.
Oh.
We have a note regarding use of phosphorus as far as the landscaping and establishment of the turf.
You will.
Your V1 plan showed a removal of a stream. You want to go to that plan, Kim? It's one of the first drawings.
Yeah, that will revise the label. It's not a blue line or a stream. It's just
No,
a
it's not
drainage
blue line.
swale that goes through there that will be picking up the drainage within our system.
Okay.
We may already have revised it on part of ours unless if you found it on the most recent one we sent you, then maybe we haven't. There's a swale right through this area right here.
Yep, there's two, I think. There's one there and one down below. Yep. And the abandoned right of way reference that you have on that plan?
There's a ingress egress easement, right of way easement, that was to and from the parcel here. That just benefits ourselves. We're abandoning that as part of the subdivision process.
And you're abandoning the storm sewer easement from Candlewood?
It'll be relocated. We have to, of course, still provide drainage to the property, so it will follow the storm infrastructure to give them rights for their drainage to continue to discharge.
Speaking of Candlewood, landscape buffers, I didn't get out to look at the back of Candlewood. Who's gonna be looking at who? Candlewood be looking at you, or will you be looking back to Candlewood?
It's back of building from both developments towards each other. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
They're not super, I mean, they're close, but not super.
It's more down for the, I guess there's 3 townhomes. I guess that would be the closest would be.
yeah, still a pretty good buffer, a couple 100 feet between the buildings.
Is it vegetated now, or is
I
it
don't
just?
remember that off the top of my head.
Brush, it looks like it's brush.
You guys?
I bet there's arborvitae's. Go to the, like a Google
All
or
right.
something.
I think Bob's got it up.
I think it's brush. But you're right, it's back to back. They're-
Townhomes, they'll be on individual lots
Correct. For sale townhomes.
with the down the center of the units.
Center of the wall, yep. Yes, the pipeline does go through there, so there is a view corridor for that standpoint.
Some of your frontage lot line dimensions on the townhouse lots are missing. Either that or we assume they're the standard typical, was it 20-foot townhomes?
20 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
20 foot width, yep.
Yeah, that'll.
I know it'll show up on the final plan, but
Yeah, it's a jumbled mess in there with all those lot lines, so we'll beat that out.
When we get to the final
Yeah.
section for that portion, we will probably have a table put together for all the individual lots.
you're using, I think, concrete gutter for the most part on your streets.
Yes, yep.
There was a reference to a plain cement concrete curb in the detail sheet. Is that inside in the interior of the multi-use?
Mixed use
So you're gonna,
apartments.
you're gonna plain concrete.
We'll have
curb.
concrete curb there, yep. All the islands, edges of the park.
All right, I spent enough time. Did I whet anybody's appetite here on the board or bring anything else up?
Never mind.
If you'd like the 1-bedroom info, I have that now. 47 1-bedroom units for the mixed use building, and then half of each 28 unit building. So 14 1-bedroom and 1-bedroom plus den units in each 28 unit building.
Okay. Let's scoot back out to the public.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question first? And Matt, I apologize, I didn't see your response letter, which is 27 pages long and probably hopefully addresses this, but the open space areas that I guess I would traditionally think would be dumped into an HOA that aren't going to be, have you addressed those the ownership, maintenance, management of those? Obviously, the mixed use building is gonna have a bunch of it. I'm assuming the first 28 unit apartment building can take the one that's surrounded by Road A, but then you've got the one, or Road B, excuse me, you've got the one in the middle of the project, and then you've got this strip coming off the townhouses. What's the management of those?
Yeah.
Ownership.
Good question. So the intent would be that the entity that owns and manages the apartments mixed use would, we talk about mechanism, whether it stays part of the tax parcel of that or ownership deed restriction, we can talk about that. The intent would be for all of the open space to be managed, maintained by the mixed use owner And this connects actually, all the way
That's
through, so that would all be part of that parcel.
And then the true.
And then, trail here, which was added at the request of the board, that would either be easement or a strip of land wide enough for it. This, would be on the mixed use, and these two sections, it is anticipated that there would be a townhome HOA specific to the townhomes that would cover those two sections of trail.
Does your subdivision plat show that ownership structure?
It does not currently. Mostly because if it is deed restricted, that wouldn't necessarily be on there, although it could be noted. If it maintains part of that same text parcel, then we can designate it that way on the plat map. I don't know if that would be an assessor discussion or, you know.
We'll just have to think about it.
Okay.
I don't want to confuse things as far as the zoning, but you still have the underlying zoning district, right? There are 120, there are. So what's being proposed is single family homes and apartment buildings in the R120 and apartments and townhomes in the R130. Now, does that all get wiped off the books when you create the incentive zoning?
Was that?
This is outside the form-based code.
Yeah, so the incentive zoning covered the project, and did it allow changes of use? I don't.
Yeah, I
recall.
think my discussion with John as it related to the modification that was needed at last night's meeting. Those are not permitted uses, so as part of the incentives that we were granted, it permits the uses within those districts. So the modification that we made was really specific to the single family and townhome because those were specifically permitted within there, and we didn't modify that minimum lot size, I think it was, that we needed to have.
Okay, so the action that took place last night, sure. Covered. Yeah, I just, so it's still got R130 underneath, and then if you took care of doing the blanket IZ, it covered all that. It doesn't. Anybody else? Let's go back out to the public. Have we generated any questions, concerns from the public at all in this project? Yes, sir. Please step forward.
Oh, yes, thank you. I was listening,
Your name, sir?
Oh, yes, my name is Robert Collins. I'm president of the Canandaigua Sportsman Club located over on Emerson Road. I'd like to backtrack back to we were talking about the northern border along there. If it would be, Sportsman Club. Our main thing is turning money into noise. And I wonder if it would be somewhat be possible to, along that border there, to plant sound absorbing trees like conifers or some arborvitaes, something like that, that would reduce our signature out there on Emerson Road to the people who live.
You want to point on
Oh,
the
okay.
plan? What
Yeah.
are you talking about?
We're
I know where you are. You're up on Emerson, yeah.
This buffer zone right along here, they said there was a 60-foot buffer there. They were gonna cut down, I believe it was 40
feet.
But, in place of that, the sound deadening trees up along, maybe, I don't know how far along here.
Where are you?
We're north, about a half mile north of
on Emerson.
Snake along there, and then probably approximately right up above there. That would be possible, suggestion.
Your fear really, Robert, is them complaining, right? And then shutting you down potentially.
You
just care about.
Well, we've been there since 1990,
Yeah.
And, we've been up there by ourselves, nobody's bothered us, and now we see this, we're just trying to, and I mean, everybody reads the newspaper, current events, these developments happening, people buy places and then oh darn, there's a farm there, it smells bad, there's a gun range, they make a lot of noise, and we do manage our, you know. The ranges don't open till 9 o'clock, and then a half hour prior to sundown, it shuts down. So, you know, we do our part. I'm just worried, you know. We're just trying to be proactive about this.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Is there something, Matt, that we could put in, like you have the right to farm? And I know there's something that we put in normally around an airport.
You mean the right to shoot?
Yeah, the right to shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just an acknowledgement that is there. That's there, if they're buying a house, and that noise is gonna be there.
Noises.
I don't hate that idea.
It's not a nuisance.
Huh?
I think that's not a bad idea at all.
I mean, that's gonna kind of help you.
Yes.
Your main goal is they need to understand that that's gonna be there.
And hey, you know what? If they want to shoot, they're more than welcome to come down and join us.
Yeah.
You know, we have a sporting clays course that's renowned on the whole East Coast. You know, so, you know.
Okay.
So like I say, we just want to doing our thing, you know?
There's something to be said that you're there first. I mean.
Yeah.
As long as
It's
you're
always the
permitted
case.
use, it's, you know, it's not really your problem that these people might be bothered by you.
Right.
Especially permitted use like you are. I mean, it's kind of is what it is.
That disclaimer might be.
That kind of, but I understand your point.
Yes, well, and then there might be a new regime coming in down the road also, you know, things change, people change, you know, this. Again, the proactive, you know,
So you said 1919?
1919, they moved up from, they were originally located on Canandaigua Lake,
Gosh.
and and then they moved it up to Emerson Road there.
Where were they on the lake? Where were they on the lake?
I don't know that. I'd have to do some more research about
How old do
that.
you
They
think
were
it's gonna be?
right down by where the island was along, up around there, you know, because there used to be a lot of duck hunting down. So,
Okay, good.
all right,
Thank you, Mr.
all right,
Collins.
thank you.
Anybody else? Here, there? All right, so where are we? I guess, Jake, you've been keeping track of things, see, we have some homework to do. Matt, what's your schedule? 'Cause I have to compare your schedule with our schedule.
We have provided a proposed schedule to staff that we would like to have accommodated. I know that they are reviewing that against a whole lot of things, including all the information that we just sent back last week. So that's an ongoing discussion. Our preference would be that if the board is satisfied from a preliminary overall standpoint, that we could get approval at the next meeting, which would be March 11th, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood, and allow us to potentially be considered by the board April 25th, 26th, whenever that meeting is for final section 1. But that's an ongoing discussion that I don't think has been fully resolved yet. We've been working with John and Sarah and Chris on that, so.
Did you want to talk about, you don't have to right now, do you want to mention why you think you should be considered for final, why there's not going to be much deviation from what the board is seeing right now for preliminary?
Yeah, I think we can save that for the next one, because I want to make sure that I'm not stepping on toes for schedule here, but you know, I think we have adjusted the majority of plan changes, if you will, and now some additional detail and coordination is needed. So, you know, from a final section 1 standpoint, I don't know that there's a lot of questions that this board has that we either don't know already and will address or can address as we continue to meet with you guys over the next couple of months.
And that was part of the reason for my detail tonight. You knew it was ahead, and a lot of things we mentioned said that'll be taken care of with final. So I guess, you know, it's been pushed to final, so it's got to be addressed in final.
Yeah. And I think one of the main benefits that we have here, we've done a coordinated secret review, right? That usually is what takes some time with the planning board working through on the project, and that's really been done, coordinated and completed as part of the IZ kind of before we got here, so.
Okay. Well, if you have your homework to do, and if you could provide the information we had requested to both other board members and myself had asked for it, that would be helpful and we'll talk to you on the 11th.
Could we recap those requests just to make sure we didn't miss anything? I would be very brief on attachments that were requested.
Sure.
Single family and townhome elevation and plan for height and what the look was gonna be. We'll potentially take a look at what it's gonna look like coming along Fire Hall and see if we can provide something there. Form-based checklist, which I'm sure we have done, just not sure why it's not there.
No, you have the other checklist, not the form-based uploaded. I just checked.
Oh, okay,
So I think
all
you're
right,
thinking of that.
got it. We'll make sure we get the right one done.
Or base. No.
Yep. Balcony compliance, we're gonna check on that. Equipment information and screening if needed for HVAC equipment, and then discussion or follow-up with Mr. Fletcher on signage, turnarounds, phasing plan coordination. That's what I had down for additional materials.
Maybe revision of the subdivision plan to address ownership of the open space and stormwater management parcels.
Yes. I think that'll be a final plat thing, but, okay,
That's definitely has to be addressed at preliminary.
okay.
Did you address the easements yet?
We've added easements to the plans. We have not done any mapping or descriptions of them yet, but they're on the subdivision and utility plans currently.
They're all traditional 10-foot easements for all kinds.
And hopefully you can sit down with Jim Fletcher to go over some of the items that are street related, because we certainly would like his feelings on some of the items that we talked about regarding street infrastructure.
Sure. Yeah, we,
Street
like I said, we've been
signs.
reaching out to him and we'll make sure we connect with him.
Anything else the board wants to see? Okay.
Understanding though, I'm not trying, I just want to set expectations. Staff still hasn't gone through essentially the form-based code checklist, including the architectural and design related things. But so that's still up in the air, is that has to be satisfied before we can see a preliminary approval. I don't know, maybe it's all perfect. Maybe there's some questions that need to be addressed and then come back at a different meeting, but I think you're still in the same ballpark of a schedule. I just want to set expectations.
Yeah, the
Mike, did you
MRB
say
review.
you're
A
satisfied
re-review.
or you haven't?
As far as my comments,
Yeah.
I have not reviewed the responses.
Oh, okay, that was what you said you hadn't, that
Yep.
makes sense. Lance.
I was just gonna say, Matt, if you guys already did fill out the form-based code checklist, most certainly that would be helpful if that was. I know sometimes we like to wait to get everything done and then submit. That could be priority number one, getting
Okay.
that in. I think that would help.
Yeah, and that's, again, I think we have it done, so if so, we'll have it
Yeah.
into you tomorrow by the end of the week for sure, if we miss something, so.
Because that's part of our charge.
And if
Make
there's,
sure the site plan.
I don't know, honestly, I don't know what's on the form-based code checklist. I'm assuming you and Steve went through all the requirements and, we meet that, we meet that, we meet that. If there's stuff that is a little bit, might need a little explanation, might need some discussion, let's, sit down with staff and maybe Chuck and go over that, so you don't show up on the 11th and say, wait, and, everyone says, well, you gotta redesign a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
Maybe it's all self-explanatory, I don't know. But let's try and head off.
And tie down Farmington, I guess, trying to get. Making sure you're okay with them as far as the water.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, with the notes. Yep.
I mean, we can always make any approval conditional upon. But then you have to have a letter of approval from them before you get the plan signed. Well, no, we're not signing these. Oh, no, we
No,
do.
you don't sign these.
That's right. I'm thinking final. Yeah, we'll sign preliminaries. So tie things down with Farmington Water.
Yep.
Fire department. All those third parties that we talked about to make sure they're done. All right, so I guess we're continuing to the 11th. March. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll continue the hearing till the March based on approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
see you guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
We've had a couple extensions to look at. Extension requests.
You gun club, okay? Just here to observe.
CPN. CPN 2025-007, which is the actual extension request, is based on previous approval of CPN 2024-083 back in August. Expired last week, but they did get their request in. The only thing that's unique about this request is they're asking for 2 extensions at one time. I'm not really in favor of doing 2 extensions at one time.
No.
I concur.
No. So what, I mean, it would be their first extension request. The reasonings for the extension request are listed in the resolution or to some degree. Have that in front of me?
No.
Bless.
This is policy. Yeah. Okay. Is the board comfortable with the granting extension based on the reasons? And Sarah, if you could read the reasons. Appreciate it.
Let me read what they wrote. So in their extension request application, they stated, we would like to request an additional 180-day extension for site plan approval given on 8/27/2024 from the planning board. Due to unforeseen circumstances with the cost and availability of building materials, we are not able to start the building process before the planning board approval expires on February 23rd, 2025. We appreciate your help and understanding.
Who submitted that, the applicant, the owner or the engineer?
This is the same who wrote it,
Oh,
but they submitted an application for an extension signed by the property owner.
okay.
I don't know who wrote it.
Okay. Do we feel justifiable reasons for 90 days?
Just first.
Yeah,
90 days.
90
Not a
days? Okay, it'll
second.
be there first and it will be for 90 days. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion for a 90-day extension. That's the one, CPN 2483, is that correct?
Mhm.
The new
/85. And then the new date would be 90 days.
May 24th, 2025.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll second it.
very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
You can change that resolution for where it says first and second.
yeah,
Yes.
Eric will do.
Yeah. Just to make sure.
And here we go again, another 90-day extension. I don't. This is CPN 24061, the Lakeshore Drive Commercial CC zone, the corner lot there. Where the gas station is. And their reasons being.
Oh, we got a speaker.
Oh.
One at the podium.
Yes,
Live in person.
here we are.
Welcome, your name and address and.
Pat Sheedy from Armenia Wood Design, the project engineer. Our office address is 80 Silo City Row, Suite 100, Buffalo, New York, 14203. Along with me is Tim Boyle, part of the ownership group. Yeah, so we're here to request the site plan extension. I thought it'd be helpful to just kind of run through the existing approval conditions and where they stand. And what kind of explain some of the reasons why we're here for the extension.
Sure.
The first couple of conditions, obviously the site plan approval has to be complete within 180 days. We have not met that. We're here for the extension. We will be submitting for the site development permit once obviously all these conditions are met. Condition number 3 was regarding receiving a DOT work permit for the curb cut work on Route 364. We have confirmed with the DOT that they have concluded their technical review. We're allowed to proceed with the permit application once Tim and his team actually onboards a contractor for that. So once we have that permit information in place, we can provide that to the town. Comment number 4, I'm going to skip and come back to. Comment number 5, 6 were just some notations of the plans that have been addressed. We re-uploaded the plans on January 21st to the cloud permit software. Condition number 7 was soil stabilization surety estimate that will also be provided once the contractor is brought on board. Number 8, no signage is proposed for this application. That's still correct. Number 9, I'm going to skip and come back to as well as number 10. And then number 11 was about building coverage on site. We provided an exhibit in the cloud permit software as well. And condition number 12 is that all 88 parking spaces we identified on site plans. That has also been corrected, and that was all shown on all the proposed plans. So I'll circle back here to
Ones you haven't done.
Pardon?
I assume the ones you have, you're still working on.
Yes. Condition number 4 was regarding the comments provided from the town and highway superintendent. The water service for this site is kind of unique in the sense that it's actually served from the city of Canandaigua crosses town lines to serve our building, and then it also serves the trailer park to the south through our building. We're trying to track down if there's any record information or agreements in place on that. To our knowledge, there's not. So we're just trying to find out exactly what our best course of action here is to satisfy you guys. I don't know, Tim, you want to speak to reaching out to the neighbors about this?
Yep. So the trailer, I'm sorry, my name is Tim Boyle. The trailer park next door has changed hands. We bought this site about 5 years ago, and we had to complete a couple boundary line agreements with them, and they were very cooperative. We have a cross-access agreement drafted and out to them. A little bit out of our control, both the cross-access agreement and a plan to reroute their water line. I can't say they're excited about either one of them, but we will certainly use all reasonable efforts to accomplish both of those items. I believe we'll get there. They're to their benefit.
Sure.
And we're willing to do both. The water line might have a significant expense to them, and I believe that's part of the apprehension. I just don't want to hold up our project.
Good.
For those 2 items that are out of our control. And actually, the third item is another one with the DOT, and that is getting their permission to put landscaping within their right of way, which they sound like they're agreeable to if I jump through a multitude of hoops, including an application and an annual fee and permit renewal. They are inclined to review our request.
I can provide a little, so what has to happen is we have to submit for an occupancy and use permit through the DOT to establish any sort of private infrastructure development within the DOT right away. So basically, we have to submit that request to the local DOT office, they review it, they kick it to the Albany office, they review it, and then if it does get approved, it's more or less like a special use permit. It has to be renewed every year. We have to provide documentation that it's being maintained. We have insurance for the property, things of that nature. So it is a quite lengthy process to get that approved, to get an answer out of them on that. So that's kind of where we're at with that as well.
And that particular component is a little frustrating because it is now DOT property due to a taking, right? So it used to belong, the property used to belong to the site.
Yeah, it sort of goes.
Yeah, so
It actually cuts into our
Yeah.
parking and driveways as well.
Was that a not recent taking? I mean, what, the last 20 years or something?
I think it was 12, 13 years ago.
Oh.
To the best of my knowledge, it was before our ownership, so I'm going off of the previous owners.
With the intent to widen the road or improve the road, or?
I think it was
Cut
when
the
they did
radius
some,
back?
when they did some improvements, the
Yeah.
intersection years
Huh.
ago. So,
those three issues, we're looking for a little consideration on acknowledging that we will, we are not opposed to the cross access agreement. We're not opposed to the neighbor relocating the water line. And we're not opposed to paying for and maintaining the landscape within the DOT right of way. If they provide permission. It's just that, we've had many delays with this project and I'd like to keep it moving. If we can move this forward with acknowledgement that we will indeed commit to what I just described. But we might not have final agreements in place prior to commencement of our project.
Understood. Sounds like you're working on it.
The answer is though, no. We'll need final agreements in place prior to commencement, right? That's.
Well, I can't force the trailer park to relocate their water line. I can't force the trailer park to sign a cross access agreement. I'm assuming it's in their best interest to do both, but there's financial hardships for both of them to them.
I think as it related to the town and this board, it was the cross access that seemed to be the issue. I mean, your driveways or the driveway for the mobile homes goes across your property or vice versa.
There's a small
portion.
There's a small portion of corner of their driveway that encroaches onto our property. If I understand correctly, both properties used to be owned by the same person quite some time ago. When we closed, we forced a boundary line agreement because they encroach on some of our property in the back, but we never addressed a cross access on the driveway. And again, we're willing to, I already have the agreement drafted.
Yeah.
We have it in front of them. It's out of my control whether or not they're going to sign it.
Well, they are standing conditions as you laid them out, but which you have to comply with to get your plans approved.
You can request.
You can request
Right now you
it,
have
yeah.
an extension request. You can request an amendment to the conditions. You have to ask specifically for that and, we've written justification and the board would consider that. I don't know.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Maybe,
If you're trying to pursue these, meeting the conditions, continue with that, but if you run into a logjam, there is an option to submit a request to the board or with an amended plan or amended conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one.
So as far as the extension on the approval, is the board okay with granting based on what you heard from the gentleman?
A 90-day extension from the expiration will be March 23rd.
90-day extensions are granted from the day they are granted. Regardless of the expiration. That's what the law says. Whatever we've done in the past is fine, but if you're granting a 90-day extension, you're granting it from today's date. Every single time.
Makes it simple. Your extension resolution, Eric, had first and second 90-day. This is the first and only.
Sorry, I guess I got that from the agenda. I don't know if it's.
The previous one.
Well, the other application was requesting.
No, I understand.
Yeah. So just make sure it's the first 90-day extension. And based on that, I'll take a motion.
Check, 90-day extension on CPN 24-061.
Second? Tim. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey, John, good luck. Especially with the Department of Transportation.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize you guys were here. I would have taken care of you before the prolonged discussion, but
Thank you.
you got to see government action.
Let's not brag about that. Painful.
All righty, how about approval of the minutes from the last meeting we had back on the 11th, I think it was?
So moved to approve.
Second.
Okay, no further corrections, additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Kareem, for the minutes. No share releases, no other business, no referrals. I just want to mention special projects. I don't know where we are on these. I mean, we've been pretty busy to spend any time on them. I know we talked about the landscaping and having the town
I keep thinking
standards.
enough that the code will change.
We're supposed to help change it.
We're supposed to change it. And Mark, you've got what you're working on, so at some point when we get a break, we can spend some time talking about it. Maybe at some point we'll give Tim a project. Maybe there's something he wants to work on.
I think I might. Have to-
You had one for him?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, because I was up at Fire Hall Road. I noticed that the West Her Honda dealer. They still got cars on that service room. I thought that part of our approval was that they were gonna move those cars out of there.
I don't know if it specifically said they were gonna move the cars. I think it said that with the new lot, they could move those cars. I don't think it was they have to move the cars.
I think they were using that as justification to help
For
us
the
to
parking.
move it, to park it. We talked about it. I know
I
that.
know we talked about it, I
But
just
it-
didn't know whether it was a condition.
No, it's not. If it's not a condition, then it's not gonna get done. I've learned that the hard way.
And there's no code that is being violated.
Yeah. It's their property still.
Okay, so there's more cars there now.
Oh, there's a lot of cars there.
No, I mean on that.
Oh.
that other.
I thought it was pretty clear they were gonna park the shit out of that piece of like.
They did.
I thought they made it pretty clear, we're gonna park everywhere.
We don't, yeah, we don't want to be walking customers.
Yeah.
Back into the slop and the mush.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to share with you is that the property on County Route 8 that the cell tower is built on is now for sale.
The farm?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The house, of 7 acres is listed at 699,000.
Wow.
With the additional 70 acres available.
Where's the proposed cell tower? And the 7 acres or the additional 70?
No.
Cause that cell tower lease is worth, I don't know, probably $1 million. Present value, it's probably worth $2 million over the next 50 years. But there's companies that will literally buy the lease rights out for $1 million today. Or once it's signed. But $6.99, if you get the cell tower lease with it, somebody should buy it.
Sure, you're looking for a lot?
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah,
So it might be, it might be considered insider trading, actually.
It's public. meeting.
Yeah.
Outsider trading.
It's Verizon.
Well, okay, that being said,
Verizon doesn't want to own them. They want to lease them.
another item on our agenda for the 11th is the cell tower. So if it's under different ownership, the property,
It's not gonna be by then.
oh,
And that does, I mean, the property owner is important, but zoning approvals aren't technically related, technically intrinsic to the real estate. Nobody know who the owner is right away.
okay, so, so that being said, then, you guys be ready for the cell tower on the.
Oh, yeah.
You do know there's a alternatives location. They moved it around the back of the buildings there.
I mean, I'm assuming everybody is in concurrence, that's the better location, if that's where you guys would prefer it. Or not, or maybe
So
you
what,
want it in the
let
first
me ask you
place.
a question. So what happens if that isn't the preferred location? What happens if we didn't examine alternatives on the other side of the old railroad there that's on the same property?
Well, at the first application, I believe they said we can't go that beyond the railroad bed. Forget what the reason was, maybe the power lines.
Power lines.
You're not required to exhaust any possible alternatives. The law says you have to examine alternatives. Not exhaust every single possible alternatives. It's so, I wouldn't worry about the,
Yeah.
on the other side of the road.
Well, you know, whether or not the question is to the board. Does this impact the adjoining properties visually? And as long as there's no vegetative or any break between those houses and 100 and some foot cell tower. And in my mind, that those properties are impacted.
Absolutely. Impacting a property isn't necessarily grounds for denial, though. I think that the key is go through your special use permit factors, the ones contained in 220-235 and 220 I don't know, let's say 260.
Yeah.
The ones for specific to special use permit.
Right.
And if you can say, if you're comfortable with those, you should be granting it.
But
if
I
you
asked you
don't
a
think-
question, did they demonstrate the need, according to the law? The question that was raised by the other attorney, did they demonstrate that they met the obligation under the law that says that they need this cell tower?
Okay, so that's not, well, it's interesting, it's a good question. Their second submission, they addressed need in far more detail. I'm not an engineer, I don't know if is the answer, I don't know if that's.
Well, see, where we gotta meet minds, because you're the attorney,
Yeah,
the other guy's got an attorney.
yeah, the
Yeah.
attorneys aren't the ones who decide that, the planning board is. With the advice of your expert, your consultants. MRB has somebody on staff who can say, yes, this demonstrates need or not, right?
Radio frequencies of it?
Yeah, okay, well, then you're gonna have to hire a consultant that does that between now and March 11th. I mean, it's,
But there
or you could look at it and use your judgment as a planning board member, because that's. We could have a computer decide if there's a, oh, yep, you need to show this many red dots on a piece of paper.
I can tell you that driving down 332, every time you get to the bottom of the hill past the silo, it goes from 5G to 4G to 1 bar to 4G to 5G.
I would imagine, and I'm not asking for a radio frequency engineer from MRB, I'm saying, does someone know how to look at those and say, is this need? I would bet somebody could, I bet Eric could, or Lance could.
you can most certainly count on it, but like to the point that I think you're asking for. Yeah, there's a professional out there that does that.
Yeah, and they're working Bus Ditch
You
engineering.
rely on a
and-
stamped signed plan that says this.
Yeah.
This is stamped and signed by a professional expert with knowledge in this field that says, this is based on this need, with a conclusion that says, this is a result, this is why we picked this site, this is why we want this location. We would review that and we'd say, based on the materials provided, we agree. It's an appropriate.
Now,
location.
what you don't have, so the
But
reason,
they brought an attorney and their attorney said, no, they haven't, and here
so-
is documentation. And, so we had two attorneys, two different opinions, we have an attorney that advises the board. I'm
okay,
more interested in understanding what the law says.
okay, so let me give you what the law says. The law says unless one of those engineers, or excuse me, one of those attorneys has a bunch of experience in looking at RF data, none of us should be commenting on it. I don't know. Neither did either one of those lawyers. When he said, oh, they didn't submit it, he has no earthly idea. I have no earthly idea. Jared and Steve from Nixon Peabody have no earthly idea. That's why we have engineers. Otherwise, lawyers would do stuff and make those decisions. There isn't a specific legal threshold that says you need this many red RF dots on a map. It's, do they demonstrate a need? And there's a discretionary element in that and an objective element in that. The RF engineers put together the data that they stamped and signed. And then Lance and Eric can look at that and say, yes, this shows the need. I don't know, I don't even know if it shows the need. It's not a legal standard. Just because that guy said it's a legal standard, doesn't make it so. So that's my answer to you, Tim, is there, you don't get a legal opinion on that. He was incorrect when he said it's a legal standard, that it's a legal threshold. You have to make that decision based on what MRB is gonna tell you if you're looking at the data submitted. Does that answer your question? It's not a yes or a no, but it's,
Well,
I
what
can't,
you're
but
asking is there a requirement that we have proof that the need is there?
The argument seemed to me to be that they haven't demonstrated the need for the special use permit.
Oh.
And therefore, the special use permit should be denied. If that's how I understood his request when he was representing those people. So.
Yeah, that was absolutely the
cited
words he
case
said.
law and, you know, statutes, which I'm not gonna take the time to.
Well,
read
so
case law.
we're running
Well-
parallel with federal communications law,
Right,
okay? And he's saying that they haven't met the standards of the FCC.
If-
for us. And you can't deny a tower because of the way it looks. And I
So-
think that was the reason the communication law was put into place was, you know, communities were just saying, we don't want cell towers, so we don't want cell towers. And if there is a serviceable need for the tower, which has to be
You're
proven,
kind of honing in on this.
So it
What-
has to
how
be
do you-
proven
how do
by-
you measure what the serviceable need is. Now, you had said, we can entertain a special use permit, whether they meet the need or not.
Yes,
So we could say yes, but maybe not
maybe the
no.
FCC. So I'm gonna ask that someone make a motion to enter into an executive session for reasons of attorney-client privilege at this point.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
We are
so
back.
we've come out of the executive session, so do we have other further business? Anything I had was training. Couple things coming up with the Federation and MRB. Hancock.
Yeah, I have one on Thursday, I have it.
I do want to add to training something that I didn't realize. There is DEC, soil water conservation, Monroe County soil water conservation, the 4-hour erosion and sediment control training classes. If you did decide to take those, that's a 4-hour accredited class. So you get your accredited hours if you were interested in sitting through virtual online erosion and sediment control training.
Oh, it's online?
Yes, it's credited for its board members, but they didn't know that. I never knew that was that would account towards your accredited hours, and it's for it. But that has a cost, there's a fee for that. for
Right.
that training. It's like $100.
Okay, all right. Okay, are we talked out?
Yeah.
Yep.
Chuck, just for the board's knowledge. I know every single time when we have the fire apparatus access driveways and such, it's some questions. You'll see some comments that I make on those. New York State code starts at 500 feet for driveways. You will see my office anytime it's greater than 250. Suggest, hey, we recommend you put a turn off, you put a turn or a turnaround at the end. We can't require that unless it's 500.
This board can require it. It's a planning issue, not a code issue. Don't listen to anything he just said. You can require whatever you want.
I brought it up.
From the
I-
code side.
No, he's right.
From
He
the code
can't,
side.
he can't require it.
Trump code, all right.
No, as a site plan, as a planning issue.
I know.
You
Do
should
you
be
wanna
planning for
enter
turn
into
off.
executive session to get your real thoughts?
It's a great.
I'm used to this.
He's gonna do it as a recommendation.
put turnarounds wherever you guys don't.
Do whatever you want.
No, geez,
Yeah.
but to be clear, that is not
This
to take away from your lawyer.
All right,
I
make a motion.
I will make
Man,
a motion to adjourn at 8:31 PM.
Second.
Thanks, Lance, for coming out. All in favor, aye.